Okay, so today we're going to start our Fade Walker mitts, and I want to show you the mini packs that I got from Knit Picks, and it's Stroll Mini. They are fingering weight, and I bought the Sunset. I bought one of each, or two of the Sunset, and so I'm hoping that I can get both the Fade Walker mitts and maybe some socks out of them. So the other thing that I got, and you might want to look for this pattern too, is I got some chroma worsted weight, and I'm going to make the ruby hat that comes from Ravelry. So if you go to Ravelry and look up ruby hat, it'll come up, it'll pop up. It's really cute, it's all colorful, but I thought these kind of matched the colors that I'm doing the socks in. So the first thing that I'm going to have to do when you open these packages, the yarn is in what we call hanks, and hanks are made when they first roll the yarn. And since I'm going to start with, I think I'm starting with the dark purple, this one. Since I'm going to start with this one, and you can kind of see, you can't knit from this, it'll get all tangled. But as you open it up, it comes like this. And so I have a ball winder and a holder for these. And so I will wind these before I even start to knit. Now, you also want your needles, and you can do 5 double points, or you can do just a regular long needle, and we'll do the magic loop. So I'm going to stop this video for a while so that I can go and at least start one of these, get one of these wound, so that we can go ahead and at least start knitting our pattern. Oh, the other thing you might want to do is make sure you have your Fade Walker pattern, and I've printed out some things, the abbreviations. I'm making the size medium, so I've only printed page 5 for the instructions, and then this is something else. Okay, so let's go ahead. Let me close this out, and I'll be right back in just a little bit to show you how to get started on your Fade Walker mitts. Okay. Okay, so before we go on with our pattern, I'm going to show you a new stitch, which is easier to see with the lighter and the bigger yarns than with the dark colors I'm working with. But it's called, let's see, where is it? KTBL2. So what that says is you're going to knit through the back loop twice. And in order to knit through the back loop, I cast on some light green yarn because it's easier to see. So let me push this over to my right hand side. Let me just knit the first stitch. So that I'm going to knit a couple stitches. Okay, so when you knit through a back loop, normally you would knit the front of the leg of your stitch. But when you knit through the back loop, you do exactly what it says. This is the front, and this is the back. So you find the leg of that entire stitch on the back of your needle, and you just knit through it and pull it through. I'm going to do it again. And sometimes it helps me. Sometimes I have to do a couple different things to get it to be able to easy to pick it up. Sometimes I have to pull it loose a little bit so that I can make enough room to get my needle through. There are other times you'll see me do this. I'll go in as if I'm going to purl. I'll wrap my needle around to the back without taking this stitch off the left-hand needle, and then I'll pull it through. So what this does, it makes a really tight looking stitch as we go along, and it looks really pretty with these Fade Walker mittens that we're making. So go ahead, if you have to get a different piece of yarn out to practice this, but just remember, you're not knitting through the front stitch, you're knitting through that back stitch. And if you have to give yourself a little room and wiggle, don't feel bad. I do that with just about every stitch I make on a back knit through the back loop. So just practice that a little bit, and you'll see how that's just really pretty once we get through. Okay, let's go on to our pattern then. Okay, so you can see I have all of my yarn caked, and it's taken from the hank like this, and you just wrap it into little, we call them cakes. Okay, so the next thing I want you to know is you need to have your size 2.25 millimeter needles, and I'm not sure what size that is in US. I think it's a size 1, I think. But just make sure it's a 2.25. I like these needles. They're Knitter's Pride, and they are the metal ones. And usually I'm not crazy about metal, but I have really come to like these a lot. Okay, so I am going to label these A, B, C, D, and E. And I'm going to push these ones out of the way because I'm going to start with my darkest color. Now, if you look at your pattern, I'm making a size medium. If you're making the size small, you should have measured around the biggest part of your hand, right about here, and then however many it shows you up at the top, how you decide whether you're making a small or medium. I'm making a medium. And so round A, and it tells you down here round B, round A, round B, round A. It tells you you're going to knit all stitches if it's a round A. If it's a B, then this is the pattern we're going to use, and I will talk you through how to do that stitch. We're also going to go ahead and learn how to do a knit through the back, and that will help us to make our, when we do our ribbing, it's going to set up just a little bit more. So let's go ahead. And I'm doing the center pull, which a lot of people don't like center pull. I do okay with center pull, maybe because I don't wind mine terribly tight. So again, to start, we're going to take our tail. I leave my tail right in the middle of my 2 fingers. I wrap it once, and the second time I wrap it, I push it back. And then I take the tip of my needle, put it under the first one, over the second one, and pull it through. Now this is just a fancy way of making a slip knot. If you know how to make a slip knot, go ahead and just do it that way if you don't like doing it this way. So we're going to cast on 68 stitches, and I like my form of stretchy cast on. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now, and I'll show you. As if to knit, I put my needle through my yarn, wrap it from back to front, bring it, and then I put it on here. I don't take it off yet. If you like a different cast on for stretchy, that's fine too. I've just found that I really like this one. This gives me just enough room for my hands. The other thing I would like to tell you is when you are knitting with darker colors, there are a couple things you need to realize. Darker colors are a little bit harder to knit with. They're a little bit harder to see because they're so dark, and you just have to use your fingers to manipulate them and keep the stitches apart. That helps. The other thing that helps is to have a lighter needle that you are working with if you're using darker yarn. And again, if you're using a light yarn, like my yellow is going to be, you could also use a darker for something like that. But I'm using silver needles, so they should pretty much handle both my colors. My dark, this is almost like a black, but it's got a little red tint to it. And then my yellow will show up nicely on it too. So go ahead and cast on your 68 stitches. If you like the 4 double points, you will make sure that you cast on and then separate them into 17 stitches on each needle so that they're evenly divided. Mine, I'm going to do 34 on each side of my magic cast on. So what that means is, let's go ahead and get all of our stitches cast on, and then I will be right back to show you what I mean by that. Okay, so I have my 68 stitches. I've also put an extra stitch on here. Now, I did 34 on this side, and I put a stitch marker, and then I did 34 on this side, but I put the extra one on, and I'm going to show you why. So now that I know where the middle of mine is because of my stitch marker, I'm going to move my stitches down to my cable so that it's a little flexible, And wherever my stitch marker is, that's where I'm going to separate my yarns. And I'm going to go ahead and pull my needle, the loose needle, out. The reason I have such long cable, these are fixed circulars, so I want you to know the reason I do such long cables is because when I knit socks, I generally do 2 socks at a time, and so this gives me plenty of room to do that. You don't have to have them this long. It's okay if you don't. So, so what I want to do is I'm going to push all of my stitches up onto my needles. They should all fit. And I got a few a little bit too tight. And the next thing that I want to do is, let me hook that around there, is I want to make sure that my bumps are all in the middle, these bumps. And I know it's a little bit hard to see with all this fine yarn. Okay, there we go. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take, now remember, your working yarn comes off of your right hand needle. Hold down your little tail. I'm actually going to pull this up, and I may have done it backwards, but that's all right. I know how to fix it. And I'm going to slip one of these stitches. No, I'm actually going to do it the other way. I'm going to take one of, sorry, let me pull my needle back down. Doot, 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 doot. Yeah. This also helps with not getting your stitches twisted. Now I want to make sure everything's in the middle again. Okay. And I'm actually going to take one of these stitches from this side. Hang on just a minute. Okay, so I have my working yarn coming to my right. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use something to take one of these stitches. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger so that it fits on here so that I don't lose it. I'm going to take it off of there and I'm going to slip it on to my other needle, just like that, and then tighten it up. Okay. So the next thing I want to go ahead and do is I want to pull my working needle out. And our pattern, if you look at our pattern, it says join in the round. So the cuff, the rounds 1 through 14, we're going to use color 1, and we're going to knit 14 rounds in twisted rib, which means we're going to knit through the back loop of 2, and then we're going to purl 2. So let me show you how to knit through the back loop of 2. Now my first one, I want to do 2 of these stitches. I want to get them knit together so that I will close up my gap. So I'm just going to go ahead and knit those like I regularly would. And we will knit them through the back loop on the next round. Now remember, this is dark yarn. I apologize, it's very hard to see. So when you're thinking of knitting through the back loop, find your stitch that you're going to knit through, and instead of knitting that tail's in my way. Instead of knitting through the front like you normally would, find the back part of it. And we're going to knit through that. So I'm going to go ahead and pull my stitch. There we go. And then I'm going to knit through that. And I have stitches twisted and being naughty. There we go. There we go. Okay, so then we're just going to go ahead and purl 2. 1, 2. Now we're going to knit 2 through the back loop again. And I'm going to separate my stitches a little bit so that I can see them a little better. So we're going to do knit 2 through the back, 1, 2. Bring your yarn to the front and we're going to purl 2. 1, 2. Knit through the back loop of the next 2. 1. The dark yarn is very hard to work with. 2. Okay, and then we're going to do a purl for the next 2. And we're going to do this the whole way around until we come to the beginning of our round. Now you remember, when we knit, when we have a tail, that's always the beginning of a round. So what we want to do, and I'm going to let you do this for yourself, you're going to do that for 14 rounds, and that will make your cuff. So I'm going to close this video for now, and until next time I'm going to give you a chance to go ahead and make your cuff. And I will see you next time, where we will start our regular patterns in our colors. We'll keep going. The other thing that you might want to do while we're thinking about it, I have a red pencil. I wish I had a yellow one. Yellow shows up just a little bit nicer. And nope, they're all red. Okay, well, we're going to do it. So you see how the colors change? You have color. The first row is color 1, the second row is color 2. So you might want to see, you're going to start changing colors here. You change it as soon as we get finished with our ribbing. And we're going to go to color 2. And then we're going to come back to color 1, color 2, color 1, color 2, color 1, color 2. And then for the rest of it, we're going to go down to here. But then we're going to skip. We're going to go to color 3, color 2, color 3, color 2, color 3, color 2. And we're going to do that throughout the pattern. So you might want to go ahead and highlight your colors. For example, I might use yellow for my color 5. I might use red for my color 4. I might use a purple, blue. You might just want to use colors to show you where you're going to change colors. The other thing is, once I am finished with a row, and I will use pencil because it's erasable. Once I've finished with my cuff, I will cross that off. I will put a little check there. You can put it over here wherever you like so that you know. The reason I'll put it on one side, because I'm making these singly. Once I finish the first complete glove and I start on the second one, then I have the other side to work through that again to make all my check marks to let me know I've finished that round. Okay, I hope this has helped you. I will be back probably in a couple days to help you with the next section when we start doing our fade colors. Okay, thanks for joining me. I'll see you again. Bye-bye.